News with Gina.
The news with Gina Grad.
Well, speaking of this crazy virus, Dr. Anthony Fauci dismissed the theory that coronavirus originated in a lab in Wuhan, contradicting what the president and Secretary of State said, according to Newsweek. Fauci said in an interview with National Geographic, quote, the best evidence shows the virus behind the pandemic was not made in a lab in China. Everything about the stepwise evolution over time strongly indicates that this virus evolved in nature and then jumped species. He added that he doesn't believe the alternate theory that somebody discovered coronavirus in the wild, brought it into a lab, and then accidentally unleashed it on the public. And Fauci's statements contradict what President Trump said on April 30th, that he had seen convincing evidence that the coronavirus originated from China's Wuhan Institute of Virology. And Mike Pompeo kind of echoed that as well.
Well, first we heard the wet market and the bat. Then we heard the wet market didn't have the bat. Then we heard it was at the institute, the lab, essentially, which is also in Wuhan and maybe not that far away from the wet market, where they were working with some bat, something. So then someone connected those dots. But is it now either the wet market or the institute? Is that where we're at?
I haven't heard any other mainstream theories either. The way the bats, one of the theories is the way the bats are cargoed at the wet market leads them to a lot of abrasions and, for lack of a better word, leaking.
I heard the bats weren't at the wet market.
Where were they?
Who cares where the damn bats are from?
Nearby.
Why are you eating them?
Yes.
Well, and then one of the theories was the bat that they trace this back to isn't even a bat found in any part of this province. So maybe that's where the lab came in.
Isn't it plausible that the bat could have bitten someone?
Yeah, but I think we'd know that.
Or who knows? Because then we'd have Batman.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right.
Maybe radioactive. So
Great origin story.
Because, this isn't, as you've said before, this isn't a country that's super forthcoming with this information.
No.
So I don't know that we're ever going to get a definitive answer.
Yeah, but in situations like this, you look at motivation. China has motivation to cover up, right? I think that certain people would believe that Trump has motivation to have an enemy, right? I don't see what Anthony Fauci's motivation is other than just to be a scientist and sort of nerdy and just want facts. And so I'm drawn to that type of person who just has no time for bullshit. He's got no political motivation to say that it's from China or to say that it's not from China. So I think I trust a scientist in this situation, because what's he got? He's been around literally doing that job since Reagan.
Yes, and he's worked for both parties,
He's not trying to be elected to anything.
Right.
He don't care. He's old enough if it's time to retire. I just feel like he's got no motivation to do anything but tell you the truth.
No, I agree. Motivation. Look for the motivation. If there's no motivation, then that's usually the one to bet on.
Right.
But if it's still from China, I'm still pissed at China. So
that's fine too. If they hadn't been eating bats, we might not be in this position.
And if you didn't want to be pissed at them, be pissed because of the murder hornets, the Asian murder hornets.
Please, something else to worry about.
God damn it.
So,
yeah. Those things aren't 2 inches. We're rounding way up with those things.
I think we're rounding up from 1.5 inches, though. I don't feel like
we are. But
still pretty damn big.
I'm a carpenter. That's a lot to me. They're big, but they're not 2 inches. I've been eyeballing those things, and we can't have them on a hand. They keep taking pictures on a hand. We need a dime for scale. Somebody's got to put something next to that thing.
I don't really care how big they are. The people who say they've been stung by them say that it feels like hot nails being rammed into your leg. So I don't care if it's microscopic. If it's going to give you that much damn pain, then I don't want it around.
Yeah.
Who cares how big it is?
I agree too, but they just they tap into our sort of Cro-Magnon brain, which is they look so scary.
Yeah.
They look like DC or Marvel came up with them.
Yeah.
Literally in the drawing room, like they speak to us. I
was having the Avengers would have fought.
Yes. I had this thought. It's very esoteric. It's going to sound like I took mushrooms, but I mean it.
Strap in.
Here we go.
this is what I wrote this down a long time ago, and I've been thinking about it a lot. Our relationship with sort of the aesthetic we've talked about all the time. Cockroaches look nasty and dirty and weird, and spiders look, and ladybugs look nice, and butterflies look nice, and we have dogs that look mean. Look at the ocean. There's a bunch of, look at that dolphin. Look how smart he is. He's a good dolphin.
Smiling.
He's a smart dolphin. Like that jellyfish. Ugh, get him out of here.
Put up a picture of a monkfish, Chris.
Right.
Oh, don't.
We literally go, we have the nice looking stuff and the mean looking stuff, and we sort of judge accordingly, even if the mean looking stuff isn't as bad as the nice looking stuff.
Weren't we taught though those things? Weren't we taught what's ugly and what's pretty?
I don't know if that's taught. Like it's like you see a flower and you go, that's pretty, and you see a weed and you go, that's ugly. And some of it is societal, but also how do you get there as a society? You know what I mean? Like, why did you go there in the first place?
There are societies in Polynesia where the fatter you are, the more attractive you are. And I mean, that's because I guess back in the day, those people who were larger were eating better.
Yeah,
and therefore that meant that they were rich, and for whatever reason that has translated into those folks being more attractive now, which is exactly why I need to move there.
How's the Polynesian? But I'm saying, like, how's the Polynesian space program working out? Like, I'm saying, yeah, those are outliers, but we don't look at them as models of society.
You think of babies and the theory about babies that they evolved to have these big eyes and round faces, so it would be something that we were attracted to, that we would want to take care of and not abandon. So I think there is some evolution in that.
That noisy cry,
right?
It was it evolved to be impossible to ignore.
Right.
Well, I'm going to get in the part where you guys think I drank some peyote.
Oh wait, you haven't already gotten there?
I haven't gotten there yet. I have not gotten there yet. First off, the queen hornet can be 2 inches, but the workers are 1.1 to 1.5. That's what I felt like I was looking at. I felt like I was looking at the 1.5 range. But anyway, here's the high on mushrooms part of this. I was thinking the other day while I was driving, that's the relationship we have with nature. We also have that with people. You know, when you see in a pilot's outfit, and then you show them a picture of a fat guy in a pilot's outfit, they think the good-looking guy is a better pilot. You know, that's just how we roll. But then I thought, you know, we have this with our own bodies and with others' bodies as well. Like, there's parts of us that we think, like eyes and your nose, and we go, oh, those are pretty parts. And then there's parts of us that we think of as disgusting, just within our own parts. Like, I wouldn't know the difference between a supermodel's anus and a chick that worked at a greeter at a Walmart anus. Like, I wouldn't know.
I smell a new game.
Yeah. Wait, hold on a second. Yeah. Hold on a second. Are you saying that the anus is an attractive part or an unattractive part?
I'm saying unattractive in this scenario.
Not for all of us, Adam, on this show.
Yeah. Maybe. Well, I don't know. Just looking at an anus, I feel like but we know what that's used for. Primarily, It's not that hot, no. But I would venture to guess that there were certain parts that you might think are attractive that might make me queasy. So. Yeah.
Hold on.
I know. I wish your stepdad did a better job since we both agree on those titties. And then I started thinking about, like, your innards and your organs and how, like, gross and weird, like when you think about the intestines and stuff like that, how we go like, ugh, that's gross. But then if you think about, you know, Giselle Bundchen, you go, look how hot she is. And then you go, look at her intestines. You go, ugh. And it's just weird that we're, even within human beings, like, breaking parts up on each other.
Well,
is this the peyote part?
I will agree with you that this does make me think you did mushrooms. Yes.
Yes. That was the thought. That was the thought I had. All right. Well.
Oh, he's frozen. Oh, there you are.
Yeah, there you are.
Okay.
What were we talking about?
Oh, who
doing
knows?
The news.
Yeah.
You're doing the news, weren't you?
We're doing the news. I think we were talking about murder hornets. So here in California, Governor Newsom, who now everybody knows that name, said this week that some of the state's retail business could be reopening with modifications by Friday. So what he's talking about is retail items like clothing, books, music, toys, sporting goods, and flowers. Those businesses would be able to reopen curbside. They just come and drop it off in your trunk. And that could be happening by the end of this week. He tweeted that the order does not include office spaces, restaurants, shopping malls. Phase 3 of the state's reopening plan, that's going to be more like the hair salons, the nail salons, the movie theaters. And stage 4, I don't see that happening for a long time. That's the conventions and the WonderCon and concerts. And I think that's going to be quite a ways away.
When we get some goddamn data in that says that some of these barber places can be open in a safe way, or nail salons or something, can we just get going with that shit? Because I feel like the haircut, I want the restaurant and the barber. Those are mine. I don't know, you guys. Who do you have? Butcher, baker, candlestick maker?
The run on the salons. Hairstylists can jack their prices up if they wanted to. So this is all over, because that and nail salons, but they're the ones who are probably going to be, I mean, I think those are responsibly the ones that should take a second, right?
Well, I don't know if you saw this meme, and I don't know where they're doing it, but there was a picture of a woman putting her hands through the mail slot in the door. Work on her that way.
You got to do what you got to do.
That's right.
The one I'm have the most selfish vested interest in, but I'm also the most conflicted about. I would like your all input, because you all have kids of varying ages. I have a 3-year-old, is the daycare, because it is goddamn relentless here at home with the daughter. She just requires constant attention. We could plop her in front of a screen, but I choose not to. That's we're playing outside, we're playing inside, we're drawing, we're tracing. It's fun, but it's fucking relentless, man. But I'm also hesitant about sending her back to school for obvious reasons.
Being a parent is tough. You actually have to be around them.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. And that's
Listen, I'm having to do long division over here with decimals, and screw that.
That's what I keep trying to tell him. I don't like to play with Legos. I don't want to be chased around, but it doesn't matter what I want. It's what is occupying.
Well, I have forgotten everything I learned in 5th grade, and when I try to help him with his homework, he looks at me and says, "Daddy, weren't you a teacher?" I was, but I taught special ed, and we didn't do decimals and division. Trust me. So I'm ready for schools to go back too. Yeah. But I mean, I'd rather them take their time and handle it responsibly. Obviously, I mean, you have to assume that if they're going to go to the effort, making the decision to reopen schools is going to be controversial at any point. Daycares, it's going to be controversial. They're not going to do it until they are convinced that they can convince us that it's going to be safe.
Sorry. Yeah, I don't see, my thing with schools is all the data I hear is it doesn't affect people that are like under 16. I think Sweden obviously stayed open, but their schools stayed open. I don't have any fear for young people. Then there's the part where the young people bring it back to the old people. Right. But I don't have that fear either, because I don't live with any old people. So I send shit school as soon as they possibly can in my world. And I'm also not totally sure about the whole. I don't know that quarantining is going to end up being the right thing to do. I don't know. I think when the dust settles on this one, I don't know that will have been the right decision, or at least when I talked to Dr. Drew about it, he doesn't feel that way.
Well, I mean, Sweden didn't. And I mean, the UK, until Boris Johnson got sick, the UK was going to do the same thing Sweden did, which was go ahead and let everybody get it. And, if everybody gets it, and gets over it, then we'll have some sort of immunity to it, and then the old folks can come out of their houses, right? I'm not a scientist, and I think the concern, at least on my part, is I wish we had something or someone who we could trust making all the decisions. And I think that the problem is really that we don't necessarily have one unified voice, right? That's why we're scared, and the choice is just stay at home because we don't know any better.
Right. I think Adam might be frozen again.
Yeah. And that's what's also interesting. We have this bit where we talk about he'll jump back on. Who's the winner of COVID-19? What stories would have been big disastrous headlines that kind of snuck under the radar because we're not talking about that right now. And you know whose name I haven't heard about in 3 months? Putin.
Yeah.
Right?
Lying low.
Right.
Not a word.
And this freaked me out just yesterday when someone reminded me, remember those Australian wildfires that were the biggest news story?
Oh,
that was this year.
Yes.
That was
Didn't
just a month or so ago.
Didn't they do a thing about that at either the Grammys or the Oscar? One of the award shows. They did a big.
It was
Australian
huge. It was the biggest story. It was the worst thing that could happen to the world and climate change. And
then the universe.
It blows my mind to realize that was 2020. 2020 can kiss my ass. Every bad thing we said about 2019, I apologize to 2019 for that.
I absolutely.
Not so bad.
2020.
What I was gonna say before, because every time we talk about viruses and if kids are susceptible and how does it work, and Clay, you are right in that sweet spot age with your son. Do you understand how insane it is that kids don't get chicken pox anymore?
I've never had chicken pox.
What?
I never had it, and I am.
You mutant.
I didn't realize. It's interesting you bring that up because I did not realize until just maybe 2 months ago that there was a vaccine for it. I mean, I do know now, but I don't think I realized that one. What is it? Rubella or one of those?
MMR.
That one covers it, and I didn't realize that because I was thinking, you know what? When we finally have my nephews or my son get it, I need to stay away. And then I realized, wait a second, you're right. It's been eradicated essentially.
You were born under a lucky
I'm the
star.
I am. Yeah,
He
was
waited
born at
it
the wrong
out.
time. But you know what? Also, there is something that I do concern myself. I get concerned about. I think that this 10, 11, 12-year-old age is really formative. Like I don't remember I don't remember too much about Reagan, but I certainly remember Bush 1 and Dukakis and that race and the last year. And I feel like when I think I'm a child of the late 80s, that's what it's disturbing to me that my child is going to grow up being a child of the late 2010s and the coronavirus, and that's going to, and what will having had grown up during this period, what will that do to this next generation?
That's interesting, Clay. You and I are the same age, and I have the same. Like I have no recollection of Reagan, really. I don't remember that era.
Now, I remember the Just Say No with Punky Brewster part.
Yeah.
Yes.
Vague memories, but I kind of came online like you during the George H.W. Bush era, and I have distinct memories of that. The recession, blah blah blah, Bill Clinton, and all that. Like that was sort of my I guess that's the age where you sort of come online, right? And just in terms of what's going on in the world politically, maybe. I don't know. It's an interesting theory.
I'm not quite. I will say this, and again, obviously, if I do a political podcast, then I'm going to talk a little bit about politics. But I do worry. I don't agree with much of what Reagan did from a policy standpoint, but I will say that I am glad that in my younger years, I remember not the substance of what he said, but I remember him coming on after the Challenger exploded. I remember I remember George H.W. Bush and that calm reassurance of this is what a president is. This is what a president does. They are fatherly type figures. And I feel like I developed something in me because that was what I saw. God, I don't know what kids are going to take away from this one.
Interesting.
And they have nothing to compare it to. So
right?
this is just normal. And when Brian said before, it takes we would imagine it takes a certain amount of personal strength to come out gay in the South in that time period. And what is that like? And not that you had anything to compare it to either. But when you think of now, we talk about Adam's kids who are young teenagers, and they say at school, like, oh, we have 3 gay friends, 2 transgender friends. It's just no big deal.
It blows my mind. I remember being at a restaurant not too far from the high school I went to, and this is maybe 5 years ago, and it was around lunchtime, and there were kids who were leaving school for lunch, and there were 2 guys who walked in, and they were living out loud, and I remember sitting there and thinking, oh my God, they go to the same high school that I went to, and how amazing it is. And I graduated, I had a relatively small graduating class of 250 people. What do they say? That 10% are gay. So let's round it down.
Sure.
There were probably, statistically, and I'm being real conservative here, at least 10 gay males in my graduating class. Couldn't name another one to this day. Could not tell you to this day who they were, because they still haven't come out.
Yeah.
So I'm the only one who has come out, and I think to myself, God, what a huge difference and what amazing progress has been made in such a short period of time. Lord, what will happen in the next 15 years?
Yeah, there are
Seems
definitely. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just saying, seems like progress seems to be made exponentially quicker nowadays than it used to be.
Yeah,
right?
That's an interesting.
Certain areas, yeah.
Too. Yeah, because everything travels by meme, so we all see it at the same time. It's one picture with 4 words.
How much did it blow my mind also to just be reminded not too long ago that in 2007, the year when my son was born, 2008 when he was born, iPhones didn't exist in 2007.
Yeah.
Like I had, when I did Idol, I remember getting so excited because we got cell phones on Idol from AT&T Wireless, and they had 2 lines of text screen.
Ooh,
yes. Dot matrix text screen.
Rockefeller.
Well, Clay, another funny thing about us being about the same age, I don't know if you played, they call it Generation X, Generation Y, Generation Z, blah, 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 millennials. Our generation has been referred to, and I love this, as the Oregon Trail generation, where we obviously played Oregon Trail growing up.
Sure
But the idea
on
is that
floppy ass disc.
Yes, we were the last generation to come of age before the internet and also be young for the internet. You know what I mean? Like the internet came of age in our youth. Every other generation either was before the internet or post-internet.
Right. We had a little bit, although I didn't get my first email address till college. I did not.
I may have not too, actually, but I was aware of the internet.
And I know, God, I just feel so old when I talk about all this stuff. I remember coming home. God, I feel like I'm so old. I remember coming home and the local newspaper had a call-in line where you could dial a local number and then you could type in codes and it would give you a today in history or a trivia game you could play or something. But on the touch tone phone, and I would spend hours on that. That was like the internet of my middle school years. I'd call 919-554, whatever the number was, and then you type in the code, and there were maybe 50 different codes, trivia, and you could play the games over the phone. And I used to get in so much trouble because I'd keep the line busy and I wouldn't answer the call waiting because I'd be playing a game. And that was just the coolest thing in the world. Holy crap! And now I don't even have a landline. My son looks at me like, what?
and he'll never know another life. I remember being little, because I'm much younger than both of you.
Oh, yeah.
By half.
Incalculable amount.
How rude.
And I'm done. Sitting on my mom, it's not true. Sitting on my mom's bed going, we don't have anything from our generation. Grandma and Grandpa had the radio and you guys have the TV and we don't have anything. And she said, well, there's this thing called the World Wide Web. That's not a thing. That's not going to be anything.
Most revolutionary invention since the telephone.
Yeah.
Have you seen that video? Have you seen that video? If you go back online, it's on there where Bryant Gumbel and Katie Couric are introducing what a web
opining on
is.
what email is.
What is that symbol? That A symbol.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
My God.
What is that?
It's so good.
I'll share this just because it's timely, and I've never told this before on the show. But Clay, here's what a dork I was when I first learned of the internet. My first exposure was in 1995, and it was at Northwestern University, and they had blazing fast internet. All the universities had like Ethernet back then, right? And
did they really in '95?
I don't know about all the universities, but Northwestern did. I imagine all the wealthy universities
Ethernet.
did.
My shit was
blazing.
Until good on into 2004. So you were rich.
It was blazing fast, and so I remember them explaining like you can look up anything on this World Wide Web, anything you can imagine, just look it up. And I was like, I'm going to look up some Beatles album covers, and I'm looking up like Beatles albums and like all sorts of stuff. And then the second thought was, wait, anything? SEX. It was like, it wasn't even my first thought. It was like to look up porn. My first thought was to look up Beatles albums.
Well, I mean, and now we know that's all the internet's for.
Adam's back.
All right, welcome.
Mazel tov.
We were talking about internet porn. That's all, Chris.
Oh, and he's going to be so pissed. That's
That's the sweet spot.
All right. Well, I'll
my internet went down, and unfortunately, it's going to be difficult to converse when I can't really see you. So, Gina, I think we should just do one more story that I can jump in on, and we'll bring it home.
I concur. This one we have to use our imagination for anyway, so this will be a perfect one. Deadline reports that Tom Cruise is in early discussions with Elon Musk's SpaceX and the possibility of filming a feature film in space with NASA. This is not a booked project yet. Rather, it's early discussions, according to Deadline, but they are serious about this. And Musk's company is also currently working on Starship. That's according to TechCrunch, which is fully reusable spacecraft that would have much more room on board for a film crew to occupy. So that might be what's in store for Tom Cruise in the near future.
Is Elon still dating Amber Heard?
No, he's with Grimes, and they just had a baby, and this is his 6th son.
Damn.
You know what I love? I love that even the smartest human being on the planet still wants some hot blonde punani. And he's not. He was dating Amber Heard. She was like throwing beer steins at Johnny Depp. But what I'm saying is you'd think he would be attracted to the second smartest person on the planet, or just the smartest female on the planet. But the beauty of men is they want nothing to do. He doesn't want anything to do with the top 2 million smartest people in North America. He wants the hottest chick.
The great equalizer.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if that's because he's smart or because he's rich. It's hard to know at that point if someone is attracted to the aesthetic or the wallet or the brain, you know?
Very good point.
How big a chasm is there going to be between his kids and how pissed they are when they become adults, and how cool everyone else thinks it must have been to be an Elon Musk's kid? You know what I mean? Like, Clay, your son's going to like you, and no one's going to go nuts. Clay Aiken raised you. They're going to go, that sounds about right. That sounds good. Right. But his kids are going to be miserable, right?
They'll be living in space. They won't care.
Oh, it's a good point. Where they
that's right.
Space, where they can't hear you complain.
And by the way,
all right, let's bring it home, Gina. Sorry.
Okay, we'll do this tomorrow. Elon's liquidating all of his earthly belongings. We'll talk about that tomorrow. I'm Gina Grad, and that's the news.
Gina Grad. That was the news with Gina Grad.